Thrive Nation, on today's show, we are interviewing a man by the name of Elijah Schaffer. You may be wondering, who is Elijah Schaffer? Well, he's a reporter for the Blaze Network. He also is an investigative journalist, and he's a man who hosts his own show called Slightly Less Offensive on YouTube. And to cover the looting and the riots and all the things that Antifa doesn't want you to know about as they quote-unquote peacefully protest around the country, he's actually been punched in the back of the head by an Antifa rioter with brass knuckles. And then just last night, he was jumped by an angry mob and beaten within an inch of his life. But yet he joins us on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show to share with you the truth about what's happening with Black Lives Matter, the Marxist organization that has hijacked a phrase that we all believe in, the idea that Black Lives Matter. But they've hijacked the phrase, and now they're trying to fundamentally change America by scaring you and keeping you from voting. Now, folks, just shortly after I interviewed Elijah on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show, he was also interviewed by Glenn Beck on the Blaze Network. And so I wanted you to be able to hear Elijah's interview with me right here on the Thrive Time Show, in addition to his interview with Glenn Beck. So now, without any further ado, meet my new friend and a great American patriot who's putting his life literally on the line to share with you the truth about Antifa and the riots, Elijah Schaffer.
The New York Times, they said, are covering it. We're just covering it from a distance, and we can see everything that's going on. These guys are just trying to make this bigger than it is and trying to ratchet up the violence. That's what the New York Times said about your beating.
Glenn, I'm going to tell you this, and this is what it's like what we're reporting at night. It's so funny to hear people that aren't there try to counter it, and then reports come out later that we were right. You know, I said that the police lost control of the city, and I got mocked as well by these same journalists. Oh, you're exaggerating. How do you mean they lost control? Well, then the actual police chief says the night was a total loss, and they were unable to get control of the city, stretching several large blocks. This is like a square mile or so area. There was just no ability for police to do anything. With more than 1,000 rioters in just one location. I mean, I would say there would be anywhere from maybe 2,000 to 3,000 rioters last night in just a square mile or so. The police were not prepared, and at one point they just gave up.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show. But this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yes, and occasionally no. Thrivers, sometimes, this is an upbeat show. This is a show about success and growing a business, but I have this little theory that it's hard to be successful as a business owner if you're on lockdown. If your business is not open, it's hard to be thriving. And if your business is being looted, it's even more difficult to be thriving. And so on today's show, we're interviewing a man who actually appears to have taken a punch or an elbow or something to the face to get you the facts. And so without any further ado, I want to introduce today's guest onto the Thrive Time Show, Elijah Schaffer. Welcome onto the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Well, I mean, I've seen better days, and I will say this, not only did multiple stores get looted, but I think I took like maybe a dozen punches and kicks to the body by about 6 different individuals, just because, hey, if there's a lot of fun happening in the city and the businesses are being peacefully destroyed, as a lot of people like to call it, then we got to do what it takes to get the right footage.
You are a reporter. Could you explain what you do for a living?
Can any man explain really what he does for a living? That's a tough question, but realistically, I host a show, a news political show called Slightly Offensive on Blaze TV, and it's just really, really trying to show and expose different narratives that major corporate media outlets won't show. And I have decided that I would insert myself into situations whenever I see that something's happening and I'm realizing that the narrative seems fishy. I head out and explore it for myself to try to tell a different story. And usually the story that comes out of it is pretty shocking, as everyone knows since George Floyd was killed.
So you work with the Blaze, and so you are are you kind of like an independent contractor? Is that how that works? Are you an employee of the Blaze?
Both. So like I have multiple jobs for them. I accidentally became a reporter because see, I used to go out and I used to go interview, talk to people, and just like create documentaries and stories about what's going on in America and culture. And then all of a sudden, look back about 5-6 months ago, I randomly became a domestic war reporter. I mean, I've seen multiple people get killed right in front of me. I was about 6 feet away from Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha when he got into gun battles with the rioters that were in the streets.
Wow.
A couple people got shot last night, including a 15-year-old girl. I've seen people get hit by cars, slammed in the head with bats. I mean, and I've probably seen 24 buildings and blocks burned to the ground, completely eviscerated. And so I've changed as a man because, some of the dysfunction in the country used to be a little more entertaining, and it turned from people will talk to you to if they find out that you are not complicit in their crimes, they will attempt to kill you.
Now, for the listeners out there that don't know this, Black Lives Matter, the sentiment Black Lives Matter has been hijacked by an organization called Antifa. And a lot of people don't know this, but if you look into Antifa and who's funding Antifa, you're going to find George Soros and the communists that hate us, and that is all cited. If you go to timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com, and you click on the truth about Black Lives Matter, you can see the source of the funding, and it's truly disturbing. So are you in Philadelphia right now?
Unfortunately.
And does Glenn give you the call and say, "Hey, Elijah, we need you to go cover this in Philadelphia"? Do you tell the Blaze team? How does that work?
Yeah, so no, I mean, I'm completely independent in that way. I think what happens is it's like, let me put it in this perspective. I'm not the news, and I'm not here to be the news. I actually believe that the news in 2020 does a very terrible job at telling the story of what's actually going on.
Right.
What I do is I look for evolving events in the country.
Yep.
There was a man named Walter Wallace Jr. who charged, that's in the words of the report, but I would say walked towards repeatedly 2 police officers. Walter Wallace happened to be a black man, as many people do in this neighborhood.
Was he holding
and
a
the
knife?
Police officers were white.
Was he holding a knife?
Yeah, so that's the key. That's the caveat that a lot of people are missing. The news has been reporting that a black man was shot by police, which is always what you hear. They just keep leaving out that he was holding a knife. And
real quick, Andrew, Devin, do we have a knife in the room or the hatchet? Do we have the hatchet? I feel like I just want to make sure the listeners get this. It would be, and we're doing this on Zoom, so we get the video footage as well. I just want to make sure the listeners get what you just said. You just said the headlines fail if they leave out the detail that the person who was shot was moving towards police while carrying a knife. Why do they leave out that little detail?
Well, it's very important. I mean, if you look at one of the journalists that I don't want to call out, I don't want to bring any hatred towards him. That's one of the local journalists and affiliates here, literally wrote on Twitter from this story, FUCK civility, like it's time, like we are angry, basically encouraging riots at the dawn of this. And, the reports mentioned everything, that he was a father, that he was a loved son, but they don't mention, that he had a knife and was repeatedly told to put the knife down and continued to approach officers who warned him more than several times. And then he was shot. Like, I think 14 times is the current alleged number.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep this knife ominously in the frame, just to get, because it changes the tone of things when someone's holding a knife and pointing a knife at you, and it changes the whole thing. The whole conversation changes. Now, what time does the looting start in Philadelphia? What time does it? Do they kick that thing off around 4:45? Do they sound the looting alarm at 5:15? How does that work?
Well, here's the deal. That's a good question. I think that it probably started. They had to get off their jobs, because they needed to complain, and as people say, they needed to look for some bread. So they searched all the stores starting about 7 o'clock. They started looking for bread in GameStop, Ross, Dress for Less. They do have bread in Walmart, so that was a good hit.
Okay.
And then also, you think with looters, what really shocked me, and I really don't want to be like, somebody's going to take me out of context here and be like, he's making fun of poor people. I'm not making fun of poor people. I'm just going to say, if I was a looter and I was poor, presuming these people probably
I've been poor.
like that.
I haven't been a looter, but I've been poor. Okay, I can relate to that part. Okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, presuming I was poor,
yes,
and I decided to loot and I was desperate, I wouldn't go for the Dollar Tree or the Five Below, which is known for selling items under $5. They immediately went for the Dollar Tree and Five Below, and there was pharmacies next door. I don't know. I probably would have went for the Xanax or the Percocet or something that would have sold higher on the street, because I don't know, a pack of discount toilet paper is not on the high priorities of valuable stolen goods.
Now, okay. Do you know my cousin married a guy by the name of J.P. Decker? Do you know J.P. Decker?
No, but that's a cool name.
JP works up there at the Blaze in some capacity. How often do you make your way back to Texas? How often do you interact with Glenn Beck?
Well, I mean, I live in Fort Worth, so I live 25 minutes from the studios, and I probably see Glenn every week.
What's Glenn like in the studio? Is he typically looting things in the office? What's he like? What's he like off camera?
He's looting high ratings. I'll tell you what, Glenn Beck crushes it in the numbers. Glenn Beck in person is, I always describe this to people. I say, I barely knew Glenn Beck when my mom was battling cancer. She ended up succumbing to it, but I was a new employee there working with them. And he said, if there's anything I need, even if, he needed to pay my mom's medical bills, he was willing to do anything that my family needed. And that kind of sums him up. I mean, I think with his employees and the people there, if anyone needs help, if anyone needs anything out of his own pocket, out of his own charity, he's a philanthropist, but also just a really generous kind of guy. He's kind of like a loving grandpa that reads you a nice story in front of a fire that drinks whiskey, except he's Mormon and he doesn't drink whiskey.
Does he? So you're saying that he's sharing this truth from an altruistic motive to save America and to make sure people know the truth. He's not doing this for ratings. I mean, he gets ratings, yes, but Glenn Beck is out there legitimately trying to save America.
Oh, he believes what he's saying. He's one of the few people, and I'm not just saying this because people think I work for Glenn Beck. I don't work for Glenn Beck. I mean, it's a big company and there's a lot of, owners and people out there. But, I'm really actually surprised because Glenn is one of the few people that I talk to that doesn't seem like he's having a person on because he just knows it's a hitting story. It's he takes things very emotionally deep to his heart, because I know if he's like a lot of us, it genuinely sucks seeing this stuff happen to the country. And I wish I was more educated to be able to have a better word than sucks, but I only have other curse words that I probably can't say on your podcast to really describe the situation.
So you're there. The looting begins again. Approximately what time did the looting begin yesterday?
When did it end? That's my point. So it was going the night before, and it was 8 a.m, and they were still running in and out of Rite Aid and stuff. Just
where are the cops? Where are the cops? Batteries. Where are the police?
I say this really, really sadly. They were there in a way. But we have video footage of this, especially from a journalist named Shelby Talcott from the Daily Caller, really captured this well. They're just chilling in random parts of the town, literally laughing, talking, while dozens and dozens of stores are being completely destroyed. I've seen a look in a teenage boy's face when he's tried hitting on a girl too many times, and he finally has that face where he realizes she's not into him and he lost this game, and he just looks defeated. I saw that 12-year-old boy trying to get his first girlfriend but failing miserably face. It's the police are we did everything we could, but the army should be here, aka the National Guard, some sort of branch of the military or something should intervene. And they weren't there, and the governor said that they would be deployed, and they unfortunately were not deployed, and the police were expecting them to be deployed, and it seemed like they were told to stand down. And I know there's a correlation between the people running the Philadelphia Police Department, and I know that they were involved in running the Portland Police Department just last year. So that's not a good connection.
So is the governor of Philadelphia, or the mayor of Philadelphia, is he a Democrat?
Oh, this is an extremely blue area. Yes, all these. I mean, this is a very, very, very. When this riots happened, the governor called them peaceful protests. That you know where he stands. Like, I mean, people were shot. People were shot.
I have a question. Do you have? I'm not sure if you could comment, because you are an investigative journalist. I can't find photos to prove this, but is the governor of Pennsylvania, is his head fully inside his rectum?
I mean, I think you'd have to contact a doctor to get that response, because I'm not sure the connections between people's political parties and how flexible their necks are to insert into the rectum.
Or is his rectum talking? Because maybe it's his rectum that's speaking. Maybe he's done some cosmetic surgery where it's his butt that actually speaks.
Yeah, that sounds believable, because the things that I hear out of his mouth, they really do just sound like they're coming from places like that. It really is true.
Let's not fact check it. Let's just run it like CNN. Let's just run it.
Also, I was going to say, I know I'm getting out of the frame here for a second.
No, get out of the frame. I'm wielding a knife the whole time. Let's keep it bizarre. This is great.
I feel like joining the party. I don't even know where my knife is, but I carry a blade with me, and I was really hoping to find it, because I felt like I wanted to point a knife at you too, so you could get the experience. You know what I mean? I don't want to be selfish.
Now, how did you get? Did you get punched? Did you get elbowed? Did you get what'd they do?
No, I got jumped.
Jumped? What does that mean?
Yeah, like meaning I got punched and kicked at least a dozen times by like a group of people.
Who?
And, like it's not just this. This is cut open.
I can't even tell though. You can't. Not so much from here. You can't even see that. There, that you can't even tell.
Yeah, it's like sliced open. It's still bleeding. I do need sutures, but I'm busy, so
no, you can't
I'll do
tell.
it. I got a lot to do.
Now, do you have any other bruises? Any good bruises you can show? Do you have any other bruises?
I don't know. I haven't looked at my body. I don't have a very good body.
Let's look at your body right now. Let's look at it. Let's look at the.
I do have a tattoo of ATP.
What is ATP?
I have a camera. It's adenosine triphosphate. It's just the energy of your body. My background's actually in molecular biology.
Are you part of Antifa? Are you part of Antifa?
Well, I'm white, so that's 50% of it, but I don't believe in burning and looting, so
okay. So
I missed the other half.
People that want to learn more about you, where can they go? Where's the best place to? I mean, your Twitter. I'm surprised you haven't been. I mean, Jack Dorsey's having to testify right now. Jack Dorsey is testifying right now as we speak. The founder of Twitter. But I'm surprised you haven't had this deleted here. But I mean, you've got some incredibly. I mean, your footage. I'm just going to cue it up. This is inside Walmart, 13 hours ago. I mean. This is some incredible. It's not encouraging, but it's incredible. I mean, it's. I don't want to see it, but it's kind of like, those snowboarding fails where you see someone fall and you hope they're okay, but you kind of want to look, but you shouldn't look. This is. And you're filming all this stuff. I mean, this is some crazy stuff. Where's the best place to go to see your content?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, speaking of the censorship. Oh yeah, I got temporarily suspended just a few weeks ago, right before a riot, and I get all types of. I mean, they're trying to take my Twitter down. Even like Harvard University, the research team has written detailed studies blaming me for literally by name for the riots. They're saying my footage and coverage on Twitter of the riots are what are causing more riots. It's not the rioters who are causing the riots, or the organizations encouraging the riots, or the politicians that are endorsing the riots, or the police who are not stopping the riots. It is a journalist who's filming them and posting them on Twitter. It's my fault. Anyway, that's not a New York Times.
Real quick, can I just go off on Harvard for a second? Okay, listen to this. Dr. Lieber, I'm sure you've covered this guy, researched this guy. I'm sure you know about this guy, but Dr. Lieber, okay? This is the guy who's invented this crazy nanotechnology that Bill Gates has purchased and is trying to shove in our arms in the vaccines. I'm reading. This is from the Department of Justice website. I'm going to read this to you. And by the way, for further reading, folks, all you got to do is type in, this is the actual, you can find it right now on Google. Type in Harvard University professor indicted on false statement. Here we go. Lieber, okay, where is it? I'm going to find it. Oh, here it is. Oh, yes. Under the terms of Lieber's 3-year 1,000 talents contract, WUT allegedly paid Lieber a salary of up to $50,000 per month and living expenses of up to 1 million Chinese and awarded him more than 1.5 million. Anyway, the Chinese were paying Lieber to work on some crazy crap, some crazy technology, and he failed to disclose that he was doing that. This is Harvard University, okay? So Harvard University is crap. And the idea that I hope Americans wake up to this. You want to, I'll tell you what, I've created this new machine. It's a new machine. It's called the liberal creation machine. What you do is you take a normal kid, you send him to Harvard, and they come back as a godless communist. That's what Harvard is right now. Harvard is a communism creation machine. I'll put a link on the show notes because everybody needs to know this. Harvard's crap. Where's your website? Where can we learn more about you?
Yeah, I would go to youtube.com/slightly offensive or just type in my name, Elijah Schaffer, or Slightly Offensive on YouTube. I run it's not really, because usually this is considered a podcast. Am I on a podcast? Would you call this a podcast?
Yeah, I'll call it a podcast. We'll call it a podcast.
Well, you're a little bit like a show. I run a show. It's more like an entertainment, informative show that airs twice a week. And I do a lot of stuff on the streets. And I swear, man, it's like you said with fails, snowboarding fails and like cat fails and stuff. This is like human fails in just overarching of Western society and civilization. I try to focus on the only interesting topics. So, I encourage people to check it out. Slightly offensive. And I do warn you, it is not politically correct and it is slightly offensive. So
now, do you, so we'll go to youtube.com/slightly offensive. That's youtube.com/slightly offensive. Also, you're on Twitter. You just do a Google search right now for Twitter and then the word Elijah. It's ELIJAH, and Schaffer, SCHAFFER. So Elijah Schaffer, SCHAFFER. Final two questions for you. I'm feeling good right now. And I'm not feeling good about what's going on, but I'm feeling good about what's going to happen because I believe that the average American soccer mom does not want to defund the police. They don't want to burn buildings and loot and riot. And President Trump won last time. He won the election last time with 8% of the black vote. And my friends, and it could be just a confirmation bias, but a lot of my friends happen to be black, and they're telling me, man, I'm going Trump. I got to go Trump. I cannot go Trump. So Trump has to have gone up at least beyond 8% of the black vote. A lot of my Hispanic friends, they say they're voting for Trump. A lot of soccer moms that were voting Democrat because they always have are now hearing Biden talk about defunding the police, and they're checking the Republican box. Are you feeling good about a Trump victory? Come on, give me some encouragement. If don't lie to me, but just kind of manipulate me if you need to. Make me feel good.
No. I'll be serious here. Philadelphia is a pretty blue city, and I travel. This is actually a pretty good perspective. I basically travel to blue cities for a living. That's basically what I do. I don't mean to be politically traveling, but it just so happens that the chaos and the violence is only happening in very blue areas. And the amount of Trump and Biden signs that I see is so astounding. It's so incredibly high that I will probably see 20 or more Trump flags and signs for every one Biden sign. Even here in Philadelphia, my new producer was like, why are there so many Trump flags? And we get in the car with a Jordanian, I think that's how you call it, from Jordan, I'm pretty sure, a Jordanian Uber driver. And like, I'm just like, hey, how's the support out here? And he's just like, yeah, I'm voting for Trump. And he's got an accent and everything. He's like, I don't even like Trump. Even he says, like, I don't even like the guy. Believe me, he's like, I don't like him, but his policies make sense and he's for law and order. And people are changing their minds because that's why you'll see Biden immediately trying to condemn violence and stuff but it's too late. I mean, these cities it's too late. And it's at the point where I think people are realizing that the crap hole, can I say crap on your?
No, crap hole, yes.
Okay. The crap hole of what these large cities are can quickly become a national pandemic. And I think that the average citizen, I mean, I was talking to a Korean shop owner who's voting for Trump. She said she was part of the rooftop Koreans in LA during the riots, and she can't handle these riots anymore. And she says, I will take my gun, I will kill you. And I was like, oh, shoot, yeah. She's like, she's being serious. And people, I think, are just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's why they're going to vote for Trump, because they realize they see through the BS. They know Biden's fake. And even if they don't like parts of Trump, I don't know why people don't like Trump. I personally like him a lot. I think he's cool. But a lot of people have their opinions. They're still voting for him because at least you know what you're getting. At least he's honest.
Now, do you, again, when you got jumped, I just want to make sure I recap this. Where were you when you got punched in the face multiple times?
Yeah, I mean, I could send you some video footage too if you need anything that shows me getting jumped from the Daily Caller. Caught it on film. But I was in a discount store while people were stealing off-brand snacks and very high-ticket items like AC-powered digital alarm clocks and umbrellas.
And did they walk up to you and say, "Hey, we're gonna punch you in the face now," or how does it happen?
Yeah, well, they were, first of all, they were targeting specifically white people last night. So the people who were targeted last night were they only targeted white journalists, unfortunately. And I know that it was racially motivated because of the racial slurs they used during the attacks and after the fact. Including like calling white people, any white person, white supremacists. There was a real, you can see where this is like, this is where the like people that are progressive will think that, oh, this guy's racist. I'm just trying to report accurately. I don't have an opinion to say this. I'm just telling you, I was there. This is what was happening. And usually when people are using racial slurs when they're attacking someone, I consider that to be a hate crime. So I believe I was a victim of a hate crime. Even though I don't believe in hate crimes. I don't even think they're real. I think if you're committing a crime against someone you hate, you're full of hate probably. But I'm saying, legally speaking, I think it would be considered a hate crime. And they tried to attack me again a second. I kept reporting. But basically what happened is they walked up to me and they wouldn't let white people film. There was, and I know this also too, because there was multiple Hispanic journalists all around me doing the exact same thing. And they were completely fine. But me and the other white guy were completely chased out. And they just immediately started hitting me, but telling me to stop filming. And I tried what the Black Lives Matter told me earlier in the night. They said, we would stop the violence if people just apologized. So I tried to apologize. I was like, I'm sorry. Well, apparently that Black Lives Matter leader wasn't correct, because I apologized and they still proceeded to sort of punch me in the face.
As a aspiring investigative journalist, I have to ask one more final tough question, kind of a bonus fry question.
Bonus. Nice.
Racial slurs. You heard racial slurs. Did you hear any people that could enunciate well while saying racist things as well? You heard the slurs. Were there any people that could speak clearly without slurring their words?
They were speaking clearly, and unfortunately their racist slurs have now led to me slurring because I can't enunciate well.
Hey, brother, I seriously, I said a little prayer for you this morning. And I mean that. And I saw what happened, and I wanted to get you on here to share your story with our 500,000 listeners. And don't stop. You're waking a lot of people up. You're changing opinions. You're opening eyes. You're awakening people that need to hear this. You're doing a great work. You're getting paid very little. You're working a lot, but you're making an impact. You're making an impact. No, I mean, you are making an impact, and don't ever stop. Just keep it going. Stay encouraged. You are making a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Clay. I really, really appreciate that.
All right, brother. You have a great day.
Hey, you have a better one.
Well, we had a busy day here at the Thrive Nation, and one of the things that I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to get friends of mine, guys like Dr. Richard Bartlett, guys like Pastor Brian Gibson. I'm trying to get them into the media so that you can hear the truth. So Dr. Richard Bartlett, he's a former top medical advisor for Governor Perry of Texas for 7 consecutive years. He was a top advisor for Governor Perry in Texas. And recently, again, I've been trying to get Dr. Bartlett on as many media outlets as possible. I'm opening up my connections, my Rolodex, my cell phone numbers, my contacts, my network, and trying to leverage that to get these guys in front of the media so you can hear the truth. Now, what is Dr. Richard Bartlett talking about? Well, he's talking about how he has actually treated over 1,000 COVID-19 patients with 0 deaths. Let that sink in for a second. This guy's treated over 1,000 COVID-19 patients with 0 deaths. And you might say, well, what about elderly people? Oh, he's treated elderly people. What about people with comorbidities? Oh, he's treated elderly people with cancer. And he's found that consistently the answer is budesonide. Budesonideworks.com. That's B-U-D-E-N-S. Oh, let me look it up. But folks, I never thought I would do a show where I'd be talking about budesonide on my show. I never thought, in the year 2020, I'm going to be doing shows about budesonide. But the website is BUDESONIDE works.com. That's budesonideworks.com. If you have anybody in your family that does get, God forbid, COVID-19, have them go to budesonideworks.com. And it's all cited. It's all vetted. The case studies are there. And 0 people have died, I repeat, and 1,000 people have been treated successfully there using the Dr. Richard Bartlett protocol. So I'm going to cue up audio from the interview with Dr. Richard Bartlett he did today. And then I'm going to cut directly to an interview where I appeared on the Mike Hayes, WIZM radio show. And then I'm going to cut to another interview where I was on the Keith Hansen radio program. So it's been a busy day here at the Thrive Nation, but I want you to hear all the truth and get so you can get it in the air and share it everywhere. So now without any further ado, here's Dr. Richard Bartlett's interview on talk radio. Hopefully this radio station identifies what market it is. I think it was in Chicago, but who knows? He's been all over the place. It could be Atlanta. He's been doing interviews in Texas and Chicago, and I just got the audio file, and I want to share it with you right now.
The Morning Drive, News Talk 550, KCRS.
Good morning, and welcome back to your Morning Drive, News Talk 550, KCRS. I'm Chris Moore.
And I'm Travis Steele.
In studio this morning, not at an airport, we've got Dr. Richard Bartlett. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, West Texas. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Travis.
Good morning, sir.
So glad you are here. Every single day, you would think, here we are, how many months into this whole pandemic?
Too many.
Too many months, since March. You would think by now there would be some kind of answers on what is going on from the CDC, from WHO, from Dr. Fauci. But you know what? We're still not getting.
How about from all those doctors that are smarter than me? They'll tell you they're smarter than me, near and far.
They're not smart.
Let's talk about the CDC.
Let's do it.
They admitted, quote, at no time, this is CDC, CDC admits, quote, at no time has CDC guidance suggested that masks were intended to protect the wearers, end quote. At no time has CDC guidance suggested that masks were intended to protect the wearers. At no time has CDC guidance suggested that masks were intended to protect the wearers.
But yet, everyone is required to wear masks. Even after the information came out about aerosol and the fact that a mask is not going to prevent that from spreading. So why? Why are they continuing to give us conflicting answers?
Listen to this guy.
Be bouncing there. It would change every week. He did tell us.
See if you know this voice.
In the public should be wearing masks.
And right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is.
And then he's saying, let's wear a mask.
So, if you recognize that voice,
I do.
It's a guy that for 40 years has been doing nothing but this. And for 40 years, that's where he landed. There's other doctors doing other things besides what he's doing. But that's what his advice was in March.
Not to wear a mask. It's not going to do any.
He said, not only did he say that, but he said, this is the expert. And he's saying, listen, it doesn't give you the protection you think it gives you, and people shouldn't be. He's doing the air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
So how long does he need to figure this out? And then he says,
I want to make it be a symbol for people to see that that's the kind of thing you should be doing.
And then he's recommending that we all.
So he's saying first, it doesn't give you the protection you need. Then he's saying, well, we're going to do this wear a mask as a symbol that we're in this together. And of course,
a symbol. That's what we need. Can we not get T-shirts? I don't know. We're all in this together. T-shirts with pretty colors. Wouldn't that make a better statement?
So masks. Okay. So he's made his point that he doesn't know. He's made his point that he's going to say this or that. So, like if a policeman says, "Did you do that?" and you say one time yes and another time no, the policeman's not going to say, "I don't care, whatever," and give you a pass on it. If you say opposites, then you're lying one time or the other, right?
Your story doesn't jive, son.
Right.
Yeah, there's a problem. We got a problem.
So let's talk. That's masks, okay?
Okay.
Now let's talk, because I think everybody forgot we were all scrambling for N95 masks at one point.
Oh, I remember.
Now we're going backwards, and it's like everybody forgot. So what's this mask thing, anyways? And especially with kids. Wow. Did you know, Chris? I'm going to tell you something that's going to blow your mind. We still are using school buses, right?
Yes,
Did you
as
know,
a matter of fact.
In 2018, 117 deaths related to school buses, on par with how many children have been killed during this coronavirus pandemic. Are we stopping using school buses because we're thinking about protecting the children? I'm saying 117 deaths nationwide in 2018 from school buses. According to the pediatrics experts, 105 deaths of COVID on children. It's equal. Are
yes,
we gonna
in that,
hello?
how accurate is that?
Hello, I'm saying it's just as dangerous. School buses are just as dangerous with children as far as death rate as COVID, according to the CDC.
The numbers, yes, sir.
So, is everybody telling us that, especially Fauci? Or, we have in Odessa, we have a doctor that's on the medical board. Dr. Naidu is on the medical board.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the medical board's concerned about? People using terms that are not medical terms, like silver bullet. I should have used cat's meow.
Cat's pajamas.
I should have said cat's pajamas. It's the cat's pajamas.
There you go. If
That's another medical term now
silver
because
bullet.
I'm using it.
Yes.
Cat's pajamas. They should be chasing that. How about remdesivir?
Right.
Let's talk about it.
Talk about treatment. The New York Times put out, this little tiny newspaper called the New York Times put out a thing that can no longer be hidden, that remdesivir does not save lives.
Right. And it was it was part of the treatment for the president.
It wasn't just one of the treatments.
Yeah.
It was the only one that's being pushed in hospitals near and far. Near and far.
Right.
Near and far.
Right.
As a matter of fact, people were told, this is it. We're following the CDC protocol, and it's remdesivir. If your loved one gets put in the hospital and you can't see them, this is what we do here. We give remdesivir, $3,100. And
jeez, that's how much it costs for a treatment? Or?
Just for the medicine,
Right.
but then you got to be in the hospital for 5 days. So the hospitals, many hospitals don't have a problem with you being in the hospital 5 days
Right.
and getting a bill for that 5 days. And if they're still giving the remdesivir after this came out, a multinational study, large multinational study, shows that it does not save lives. Statistically, they proved that it didn't. Then should any hospital in Midland, Odessa be giving this medicine? If they are, they need to explain why they are, because it's not saving lives when we have a life-threatening disease called COVID.
Right.
Does that make sense?
No, it absolutely does. Nothing makes sense. You make sense. You're the only thing that I know that makes sense.
So for all the people that have lost loved ones in Midland, Odessa, and they were only given one treatment option of remdesivir, what can they do to make this right after they lost their loved one with that treatment being forced?
Can I ask a question, Doc? And people have brought this up to me. There's the right to choose, or something about that legislation where you can choose what kind of treatment, if it's available, that you receive.
Well,
if a person's going in there not knowing how severe it's going to get, and their family members are not being updated on the outside what they're going through, they don't have many options, do they? They're going to get this remdesivir, whether it works or it doesn't. and that's what they're going to be given, right? I mean, what should they be given?
You need to start interviewing some nurses and orderlies
Right.
in these hospitals and see what the doctors are saying in these hospitals.
What are
are
they
they
saying?
giving them treatment options, or are they saying we're giving remdesivir and you're
That's
going
what
to get
I'm saying.
remdesivir?
Is that everybody keeps throwing up this? You have the right to choose what your treatment is, but nobody's able to exercise.
I'm
it.
right there with you.
Right.
But this isn't a new thing. This used to be.
Right.
I'm going to push back and say this is
Right.
still the land of the free,
Sure.
the
Well,
home of the brave, one nation under God. That this is still the United States of
Right.
America. This is not the USSA
Yeah.
like they're trying to make it, where the government tells you what's best for you. There's still a place for the doctor-patient relationship, the doctor that knows you, and you know who has the one vote? The patient or the patient's family.
That's
that
how
has
it
been
should
usurped.
be.
January 1, we've gone off the rails here, where doctors are sometimes hospitals and doctors and the CDC are saying, you don't got to vote.
Yeah.
This is it. And by the way, you're short of breath. You're
Yeah.
in distress. You're in the ICU because you're there sick.
Right.
And you get a paper put under your nose and you sign that paper because that's what we're giving you.
Yeah.
This is it. And in the beginning of all of this, they said you shouldn't use corticosteroids no matter what you do, doctors. That would be bad medicine. Oh, budesonide, the medicine that I've been talking about, is a
Right.
corticosteroid, which, independent of me, France studied in eye drops against COVID.
I had read that. Give us some details. I
Anyways,
mean, that's what I'm
drops, great.
saying. Other
I'm just
countries that
saying,
have big
other
success are
nations-
using it.
Yeah,
yes.
other nations are landing on the same thing.
Yes, they are.
Independent of me.
How do you ensure now, Doc? You've got the. I mean, you've been widely praised about the way you're treating things. How does a person that's going in that doesn't really know the course that their COVID is going to take, how do they ensure that whether it turns good or bad, that they're treated with your method or a method
have
that
to
they
go
approve
one of the
I mean, how do you do
locations.
that before the fit hits the shan, Doc? I mean, because like you said, they don't have communication with their outside folks once they're really
Well,
sick.
I'm thinking
Once they're on a
everybody needs to
respirator,
have a lawyer.
beforehand.
I'm thinking that everybody needs to have a lawyer. Apparently, the law is being questioned.
Wow.
And maybe it got confused. The AMA Code of Medical Ethics for all doctors says a doctor has the responsibility to tell every treatment option, the risk and benefit of each, and the cost, and if you have any conflict of interest. What are they going to say about remdesivir? What are they going to say about a medicine that has been proven to statistically not save one life? If they're pushing that, let's see if they talk about other treatment options and if they continue to
Why
tell.
are they doing that, though, doctor? This is my big question. Even here locally, we know even here locally the doctors are refusing to give them anything but remdesivir.
Yeah, we're getting reports weekly
again-
how many doses are available. You know,
Yeah,
we used
who
to.
cares?
Yeah,
Don't give
if
that
it
to my
doesn't
Now
family.
we
work.
don't care because it's bunk, right? It's
Yeah.
bunk science. Gotcha.
Let's just talk about one more thing. We can talk about a lot of things, but social lockdowns. How many businesses in Midland, Odessa have gone under? How many businesses in Texas have gone under because of lockdowns? States locking down from the top, cities locking down. Well, the World Health Organization backflipped on lockdowns. They said it's causing more harm than good, and we do not recommend. Last week, the World Health Organization said we do not recommend governments do lockdowns. Have you heard that from our governor?
No.
Have you heard that from our local government?
No.
Have you
No.
heard that from anywhere?
The opposite.
Are they still talking about locking down? If you're a business owner out
Are
here
you
in
not
Midland,
fearful
Odessa, are you
every
being locked
day?
You
down?
got the
If they're gonna
Democratic
get-
candidate saying he'll lock it down again.
The World Health
Exactly.
Organization, well, and Fauci says, I'd like to have it locked down to 2021.
Right.
He said that months ago.
Yeah.
But the World Health Organization is saying we are condemning lockdowns. The World Health Organization is saying that. And how about vaccines? It sounds like they're going to give us a live virus. Did you know the live virus vaccine for polio that's being pushed in Africa is causing 75% of the new cases of polio there because they're using a live virus in their vaccine?
So in other
and it's
words,
spreading.
they put
So the
this
new-
live virus,
Yes,
people are
they'll
going to
shoot
get
you
it.
with the live virus, and then
No.
you're spreading that in the community. If they give us a coronavirus live virus, then you're going to be spreading their new live virus around. That doesn't sound like a
So
good
fearful.
idea.
So fearful. We've only got about a minute left, so let's wrap it up.
Okay,
Any
cat's
closing?
pajamas, cat's pajamas, cat's pajamas. If you don't like Silver Bullet, let Dr. Naidu, who's on the medical board, know that because apparently he does not know. The
like
silver bullet is not a
silver
medical
bullet.
term.
So you want the flannel
I
cat
didn't learn
pajamas.
medical nomenclature in medical school. Never included silver bullet.
Yeah.
But it also didn't include cat's pajamas. And so if you don't like silver bullet, any doctor, I'm going to say cat's pajamas, cat's pajamas, cat's pajamas. So, you know, if you're going to start doing that, why don't you start chasing protecting the public? Why don't you start chasing protecting the public from medicines that are being forced on them that cost over $3,100 that don't save one life statistically? Why don't you start holding doctors accountable and hospitals accountable that are pushing that after 9 months? And if they're still giving it to people, then you need to protect the people. And what about the vaccines? You know, you got a lot of people pushing these vaccines.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be one shot. They've said it over and over now lately. They waited 9 months to say it's going to be at least 3 shots.
Yeah. Right.
And might be a live virus. And they might not wait till the end of phase 3 trials. The FDA commissioner said that, and Fauci said that. And so
how dangerous is that?
How dangerous are they?
Yeah.
To say for anybody, for any doctor to say that we will not finish phase 3 trials. Phase 3 trials shows that it's safe for humans. That's us. I'm for the humans. Power to the people. We the people.
Yes,
oh my goodness. All right. We are out of time. I love that you're here. I love your enthusiasm. I love the fight that you're doing for the folks here throughout the Permian Basin, but throughout the United States. Thank you.
And now we're going to cut to my interview on the Keith Hansen radio show. Folks, we're going to keep sharing the truth in the air everywhere as long as we can. We must take a stand and vote for the Orange Man. We must vote for President Donald J. Trump. If you're listening right now and you are pro-life, if you're not all about aborting babies, you have to vote for President Donald J. Trump. Think about that. Well, I don't like his tone. I don't like his tone. Okay, really. So I want you to get to heaven, get to the pearly gates, look the children in the face that you allowed to be murdered because you didn't vote for somebody because you didn't like their tone. President Trump is in favor of supporting our police. All of the police departments all across these great United States, these police departments endorse President Donald J. Trump without reservation. Joe Biden wants to defund the police. It is time to wake up and to vote based upon principles first and personality absolutely last. You don't vote for people based upon their personality. You should vote for people based upon their principles. Vote for people based upon their principles, not their personalities.
I was out and about today running some errands, and still amazes me how many people still running around with their face diapers on. People jogging with masks on. People riding bicycles with masks on. People in the middle of nowhere with masks on because of the fear. You know, it's interesting, and I mentioned this yesterday to Mandy Merritt. You got somebody like you got Chris Christie, who catches coronavirus. This guy eats 379 meatballs a day. He catches coronavirus. He's fine. President Trump pounds Big Macs like it's his job. Catches coronavirus. He's fine. Remember where this had like a 93, 94% survivability rate? Well, now that they've adjusted the numbers, come to find out, this thing has better than a 99% survivability rate. You've got a better chance of dying of the seasonal flu than you do of dying of the commie cold. But yet, fear. Remember we had this conversation the other day? Fear is a powerful motivator. We spoke yesterday with Bob Zadek. Is this a dress rehearsal for authoritarianism? Fear. All we have to do is make people afraid, and we can control them. The reason President Trump has been getting so much pushback is because the left wants you to believe the fear, but then President Trump catches the virus, Chris Christie catches the virus, and they're fine. And America now is finally waking up to the idea that this is a survivable thing, that this is not a big deal. But you're not going to get that message on mainstream media. Clay Clark, author of Fear Unmasked, The Truth Behind the Coronavirus Shutdowns. You can read more on his website at timetofreeamerica.com. That's timetofreeamerica.com. Clay joins me on the WSMN Newsline. You know, we talked about it yesterday, Clay, and I'm going to double down on the statement. Fear is a powerful motivator. It's one of those things that you can use to do things you couldn't normally do. And I do believe there are elected officials, there are power-hungry people who are watching what's happening, and if this isn't a dress rehearsal, then they're looking to maximize this new normal.
Well, you know, fear is false evidence appearing real. Or to quote Adolf Hitler, as I try not to often do, he said, if you tell a big enough lie and you tell it frequently enough, it will be believed. And so I would just encourage your listeners to think about three big ideas. One, the models that initially predicted that 2.2 million people might die from the coronavirus, those turned out to be really wrong. And if you look at who made those, Neil Ferguson, who was the director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute at the time, he made those models, and his organization, most people don't know that, the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute, was funded by Amazon, who invested $700 million in the company before the models came out. And then the PCR tests. You have the gentleman that actually made the PCR tests. He has come out before, he's now deceased, but he came out and said that the PCR tests were never meant to be used to test America like this or to test people like this. So that we see the falsely inflated numbers of cases. The U.S. military actually had to do a retraction because they falsely told 600,000 people that they had the coronavirus. So the cases have been wrong. The models are wrong. And now you got, as you mentioned on your monologue, Chris Christie, who's not necessarily America's vision for health, and President Trump. These guys are getting over COVID-19 in 48 hours, 72 hours. And so at the end of the day, your listeners know what's up. I think you have smart listeners. But we now have to share the truth beyond just our audience. We've got to share the truth in the air everywhere. And I think the biggest thing people are afraid of is being rejected or being vilified for sharing the truth.
No, and the problem, though, is that you have these people who, you know, whether or not they take it upon themselves to become the COVID police, the mask Nazis, or you have people who are genuinely afraid. I was, you know, I've told the story a couple of times of being in a restaurant a couple of weeks ago. And there were four of us that were sitting at the table, and we did not have masks on. These two women, the early 30s, probably right around 30 years of age, walk in, sit down, and there was one woman who had the mask on. She saw us without masks on. She was visibly terrified. That's the only way to describe it. She was physically shaking because she was so afraid that we were going to kill her.
Well,
and you know, again, I've said this many times. Yeah. Fear is a very, very powerful motivator. I can't think of a single motivator, emotional motivator beyond fear that would get people to completely alter. Maybe love, I don't know. But I mean, you're seeing people do things out of fear that they wouldn't necessarily do out of love or even lust. It's crazy, and it doesn't seem like this is getting any better. We were told, we have to modify our behavior for 2 weeks because we got to flatten the curve. And now we're well over 100 days into this thing, and we see extension upon extension upon extension in state after state after state of these ridiculous emergency actions, emergency orders. And you know, I reject the notion that this is a new normal, but it's becoming a new normal. And we have to break through. We have to break the chains that this thing has on us as individuals and as a society. We've got to break free from this.
Am I allowed to share how this all ends? Am I allowed to talk about that on today's show?
Sure, absolutely. You can talk about whatever you'd like to.
Okay. Well, if your listeners go to timetofreeamerica.com, timetofreeamerica.com. And the reason why I ask is I know you have an honest show, but so many people, you know, they don't want the truth to come out there. But if you go to timetofreeamerica.com and you click on the button that says the truth about the global reset, this is what Al Gore calls it. It's the global reset. This is how it all ends. In Australia right now, this is crazy. In Australia right now, they're telling people they get to leave their home, and I'm sure you've covered this, like an hour a day, you know, to go. They can't leave more than 500 meters from their home and all this. And you know, now in Australia, they're saying because the virus is still spreading in your home, now they need to separate families. And all of this is called the Rockefeller Plan, which all your listeners can download. And it's a PDF that was written in 2010 that explains in great detail the lockstep nature of what's going to happen worldwide. And I've had that document for years. And if you read that document, if you just print out the PDF and everybody calms down the mind and we take 45 minutes to read it, you're going to know what happens. You're going to know how it's all going to end and what the plan is. And what we have to do is thwart that plan. But it is a very specific linear plan created by very nefarious people. And I'm happy to see President Trump today finally retweeting things that are attacking George Soros, finally retweeting things that are calling out Hunter Biden for his nefarious interaction with the Chinese. This is a coup d'etat in an attempt to end America as we know it. And I want everybody out there to know this. I'll say it and I'll say it again. All of this leads to the gates of hell and Bill Gates with his surveillance-filled technology, his vaccines, and he and Dr. Fauci have been working on that for a long time. And everybody, you've got to reject those vaccines because those Moderna RNA modifying vaccines are terrifying. And that's where it's all going to head if we don't get serious about rejecting these mandates and just rejecting this false pseudoscience, this narrative of fear. We've got to go out there. And I put all the facts, that's all cited, it's all organized for you at timetofreeamerica.com. And I have some great news for your listeners. Dr. Richard Bartlett is one of my good friends, and he's the former top medical advisor for Texas's Governor Perry for 7 years. And Dr. Richard Bartlett now has treated over 1,000 COVID-19 patients with 0 deaths using a treatment that costs less than $237. And you can get the protocol and you can have a telemedicine doctor prescribe it to you. It's budesonide with a Z-Pack. And the website that he made is budesonideworks.com, budesonideworks.com. And he actually went out there and met with the governor of the great state of Tennessee. And after that meeting, the governor of Tennessee decided to open his state based upon the fact that Dr. Richard Bartlett has treated well over 1,000 COVID-19 patients with not a single fatality. And many of his patients he's treated were elderly people with comorbidities, and they knew that nobody dies when they go see Dr. Bartlett, and therefore he's getting a lot of people reaching out to him. And now doctors all across the country are prescribing his treatment. And again, it's budesonideworks.com. 0 deaths.
You have to check that out for sure. No, but people believe that to catch this, it's almost like AIDS back in the middle '80s. To catch this is a certain death sentence, and there are people out there who absolutely believe it. I mean, I know somebody who tested positive, and they started to go through this end of life process. And it's like, are you like seriously? It's like you're almost ready just to accept the inevitable. I'm just going to lay down and die because I had a positive COVID-19 test. Well, and then a week later, boom, they're fine. I mean, it was nothing. They had some slight respiratory distress, but it's probably because they also smoked 2 packs of cigarettes.
That probably could do it. I actually explained this to one of our employees at one of my companies. We have hundreds of employees that work between myself and Dr. Zellner. My partner, Dr. Zellner, and I, we own many businesses. And so we have a lot of these conversations all the time because employees are always asking, well, I think I have COVID. And I explained to one employee, I said, if you knew a train ran over the tracks every day and you have a fear of being run over by the train, probably the best pro tip is not to lay on the tracks until the train hits you. In America, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And so the absolute worst possible thing you could do if you're afraid of getting a coronavirus is to wear a mask because it makes you rebreathe the same things over and over. The worst thing you could do is to stay inside and to avoid sunlight. The worst thing you could do is to be in a state of fear 24/7, which messes up your adrenal system and causes all sorts of issues. The worst thing you could possibly do are all the things that these nefarious health officials are recommending. We've got to get out there and reject this new normal. It's not going to happen, and I'm very encouraged by the people that I have talked to from coast to coast who have reached out to our podcast and have told me, Clay, I went to budesonideworks.com. I got the protocol. I know you guys aren't making a commission on this. I talked to a local doctor who gave me the treatment, and nobody died. And it's amazing. We've had Dr. Richard Bartlett. I've seen him now on Newsmax. I've seen him on One America News. And I'm just telling you, we don't need to have any fear about this at all. It's 100% treatable.
Talking about the procedure, or not the procedure, but what you were talking about, the Rockefeller plan. All right. Now, there was an article that came out today on Sky News. Headline on Sky News, coronavirus, millions to be banned from mixing indoors as London is set to move into a Tier 2 lockdown. So what this is, in essence, going to do is it's going to ban millions of people from meeting other people in households. It is, in essence, a lockdown. They can't go to restaurants. They can't go to pubs. They can't meet other people. People can meet outside in private gardens or outdoor spaces, provided that they follow the rule of 6 on gatherings. But, this is more fear-mongering. Sadiq Khan said, quote, spreading rapidly in every corner of our city. COVID-19 is a significant number, averaging 100 cases per 100,000 people. We don't know what the death rate is on this. But according to the Sky News article, the London-wide average infection rate, 92 new cases per 100,000 people in the last week, or the first week in October. Excuse me. I mean, if this happened again here in this country, do you think people would still adhere to this? If there was a new wave of lockdowns, if you had states saying, oh, you know what, we're going to go back to where we were when this whole thing really started. And I remember there wasn't anybody in the streets. There was nobody. I mean, the stores were shut down. You could go to a couple of places. You go to the filthiest place on earth, Walmart. But that was about it. Your local grocery stores were shut down. Other businesses were shut down. You could literally go and take a nap in the middle of a state highway. There were no vehicle traffic on the road, nothing. If something like this were to occur again, do you think people would fall into it, or people are like, screw this, I'm not going into a lockdown, I'm not going to live my life in fear. If it gets me, it gets me, but I'm just not going to play this game anymore?
Well, okay, again, total speculation. I'm just saying this. America was founded on a screw you attitude to authoritarian, totalitarian, tyrannical worldviews. I mean, King George taxed us without our consent. King George sent us into foreign wars without our consent. And so we said, screw you, King George. And we threw the tea into the harbor, and there we go. People forget it. This country was founded by a bunch of rebels who were tired of tyranny in their lives. So America should not be looking at China and what they're doing. We shouldn't be looking at London and what they're doing. We shouldn't be looking at Canada and what they're doing. They should be looking at what we're doing. We do not care. We should not care what these other countries are doing. America first. America's the best. And we got to quit listening to this international news. I mean, it's just, we are the world's leader. We cannot be the world's follower. We have to completely reject the way that these socialist and communistic countries react to things. These people, their entire way of life is based upon fear. The idea of a universal income provided to people. I'm an entrepreneur. 96% of businesses fail within their first 10 years, according to Inc. magazine. Again, 96% of businesses fail within their first 10 years of business, according to Inc. magazine. And I've built several multi-million-dollar companies, not because I've sat around all day pontificating about all the ways I could fail, but because I went out there and built something. And that's what America's all about. And yeah, you could fail. I mean, yeah, Henry Ford lost it all 5 times. And yes, Thomas Edison came up with 10,000 failed experiments of his light bulb. And yes, we could all lose it. Walt Disney did multiple times. But you know what? The American spirit says we are not going to live with a spirit of fear. Our God has not given us a spirit of fear. We must go out there with the spirit of hope and American pride. And we got to beat this thing. And we got to quit listening to the international communist news networks.
Well, I think one of the big things, and we're certainly seeing a significant surge in the interest and the following of new media. That people, and I'll tell you, as a credential carrying member of the White House press pool, I will tell you this: there's a lot of people from the major networks. It's like the way that old money used to look at new money. They don't like it. They don't. Well, why are you here? Well, because I'm in the media. Yeah, but you're a talk host. Yeah, well, so, and you basically sell people a line of horse manure. So, one of us tells the truth. It doesn't matter how big I am or how big your outfit is. They don't like new media. They don't like talk media because we connect directly with people. And we have the time to take things apart, to analyze things, to provide commentary, to provide context. I think that's absolutely important. And they don't like that. They want to be able to sell a narrative and just have people blindly consume it. Consume. Whatever it is that you happen to say, Jim Acosta, whatever it is you happen to say, Rachel Maddow, whatever it is you happen to say, any of these people, Wolf Blitzer or Anderson Cooper. Yep, we're just going to take it because you are the uncontested, unquestioned expert on all of this. They don't like that. So I think you've got a growing segment of the population that is hungry for information. They're hungry for facts, and they don't want to blindly take and consume what the mainstream drive-by media is feeding them every day.
Well, one thing I've found to be encouraging is the people who listen to your show and shows like yours often reach out to our Thrive Time Show podcast. And I've had so many people email me, and they'll say, do you know that Bill Gates, the guy who's supposed to be the number one philanthropic vaccine king, Bill Gates, do you know that he spent an insane amount of time with Jeffrey Epstein up until 2017? And I go, yeah, I do know that. And they go, well, I'm not taking a vaccine from a guy that hangs out with pedophiles. And the only people that would know that would be the kind of people that would do their research. And that's why I've made TimeToFreeAmerica.com. It's sort of like a Wikipedia of all the COVID-19 2020 chaos. And it took a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. The pay is low. The hours are long. But your listeners and listeners like yours, they want to vet sources. They want to research stuff. And they don't want to sit there and just listen to Chris Cuomo all night and go, oh, it must be true. It's Chris Cuomo. I mean, your listeners are smart people. And what we've got to do is we've got to engage the minds of people out there. We've got to share the truth. And I just want to encourage everybody that when you go out there and you share the truth, you cannot be worried about the pushback you get and some of the negative reactions you get. Because Matthew chapter 5, verse 11 through 13 reads, "Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake." I mean, at the end of the day, you don't need universal approval. Even the best president ever might have, a 52% approval rating? A 54%?
Yeah.
We just got to share the truth. We're not going to get universal approval. We just got to get more than half of America to wake up, and then the other half will follow along.
Well, I think the biggest thing, and I've said this many times, and I've either in personal one-on-one conversations, and I've said this on air many times. I say on air all the time, I don't give a rat's ass about what you think. I don't give a rat's ass about your opinion. I have no problem saying that from the highest hill. But one of the things that I have said, to a number of people in personal one-on-one conversations is have the courage to be disliked. It is not enough to be. I would rather have you hate me for all the right reasons than like me for all the wrong reasons. Because I'm a follower, because I'm a sheep, because I simply regurgitate the narrative that's popular out there. I want you to dislike me because I'm unique in the analysis that I conduct and the context that I place things in and the conclusions that I arrive at. I want you to dislike me for all the right reasons, and I have the courage to be disliked.
Again, I hate to quote so much Bible on your show for people out there that don't believe in the Bible, but Matthew chapter 5, verse 12 reads, "Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you." I mean, I'm actually excited, brother. I rejoice when people get upset with the truth. We've got to share the truth. And I just think that your listeners, I'm just going to give your listeners one piece of homework today, and maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't, but I would say it's going to take you 4 minutes. 4 minutes of homework here, folks. I would encourage everybody to go to budesonideworks.com and look at the case study, get the information. So in the event that you do get COVID-19, you're not going to die, and you can get the access to the treatments. That's the budesonide with the Z-Pack. That's budesonideworks.com. And then go to TimeToFreeAmerica.com. Go there, and I've put all of the information there. We have a whole team that's researched this. We have spent thousands of hours there, and you can win pretty much any debate with anybody when you have that right there, because all the information's all in one place. So you want to know the truth about Black Lives Matter, which, by the way, is funded by Antifa and George Soros. You got all the facts right there. You want to talk about the models being wrong? You got all the facts right there. You want to talk about the lack of deadliness, as you started your show discussing? You can find all that right there, and it's true. Chris Christie and President Trump, they've contracted, they got COVID-19, and they're not dead. And they're not like, we're not talking about these super fit elite athletes here. It isn't like LeBron James got it. I mean, these are guys who are, smashing hamburgers all the time. They like their Coca-Cola. They like their ice cream, apparently. And these guys didn't die. I mean, come on, folks. We cannot live in fear.
Clay Clark, author of Fear Unmasked, The Truth Behind the Coronavirus Shutdowns. You can read more at TimeToFreeAmerica.com. That's TimeToFreeAmerica.com. Also, check out budesonideworks.com. Clay, always a pleasure having you on the program. Stay safe, be well. Come on back again soon.
You're a great American. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Be
Bye.
well.
And then, because I'm fascinated with this idea of working many hours with absolutely no pay at all, I appeared on another radio show. This is the Mike Hayes radio show. And again, my entire motive for this Thrive Nation is to share the truth in the air everywhere. We've got to do it. We have to do it. Why did I write a book called Fear Unmasked and then make it available for free to download? Why did I do that? If you go to timetofreeamerica.com, why did I write a book called Fear Unmasked and make it free for you to download? You can download the ebook at timetofreeamerica.com. You can download the audio for free. You can listen to it for free. Why would I do that? Why would I team up with Tim Tebow's literary agent and my book agent, Esther Federkevich, to write a book? Why? And give it away for free. Why was my book banned from Amazon and categorized as having hate speech? It's because the truth will set us free, and they don't want people to know the truth. What? Yes. Did you see today? Jack Dorsey with Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, and the other tech tyrants. These people had to testify today because they are censoring the truth. They don't want you to talk about Hunter Biden's laptop. No, they do not. But let me go ahead. I'm going to share with you. This is now my interview on the Mike Hayes radio show.
6,000 doctors. Clay Clark has, and I should just welcome him right away, has written a book called Fear Unmasked. And I'll be honest, I have not had an opportunity to read much of it, so I apologize for that. Clay Clark, author of Fear Unmasked, The Truth Behind the Coronavirus Shutdowns. Clay, good morning, and thanks very much for talking with us.
Yes, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and your guests.
It is absolutely my pleasure. So, you know, what's your take on COVID-19 and what's going on in this country?
I'll give you 3 points, and you can interrogate me about them. But I would just say, if you remember, I know it's hard to remember, but 7-8 months ago, we were told that these models predicted that 2.2 million people might die as a result of the coronavirus. Well, the models were created by Neil Ferguson, and I encourage everybody to not believe me and look that up. His name is Neil Ferguson. And Neil Ferguson at the time was suggesting that we might want to lock our country up for 12 to 18 months. And Neil Ferguson at the time of that recommendation was the head of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute, an organization funded by Amazon. So again, big idea number one. The models that were used to say that 2.2 million people might die, those were funded by Amazon, a.k.a. the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute. And Amazon was so confident in what was going to happen in the near future that they decided to make 100,000 vehicles in conjunction with the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute and have them all auto-wrapped before the pandemic even began. That's kind of crazy. Point number 2, the PCR tests. We interviewed David Rasnick. He's a PhD on our show. And he was explaining to me how PCR tests basically are tests that are designed to show if you've ever had the flu in the past or certain issues. They're designed to see what percentage of the population has had the flu or who has had the coronavirus in the past, and therefore you can know how deadly certain viruses are, and it's kind of a surveying tool. It was never meant to be used as a way to show how many cases we have across the country, that kind of thing. And so the PCR tests have shown countless times to be wrong. Most famously, if all your listeners get a chance to do a search for this, on military.com, the U.S. military had to do a retraction, and they said, in error, they told 600,000 people that they had COVID-19. That's a lot of people, 600,000 people. Oops. So the models are wrong. The PCR tests are wrong. And now all roads are leading to, we cannot take hydroxychloroquine, which, by the way, has been a safe anti-malaria drug for decades. We can't take that. Dr. Richard Bartlett, who's a friend of mine, the former top medical advisor for Governor Perry of Texas, Dr. Richard Bartlett. This guy's treated over 1,000 COVID-19 patients with 0 deaths. Dr. Jim Meehan, a medical doctor, good friend of mine, has treated hundreds of people, no deaths. Between just those 2 friends of mine, that's over 1,200 people treated with COVID-19 with 0 deaths, but they can't talk. You know, they've been on Newsmax and One American News, but they can't go on CNN. No, they can't. Because, again, the models were false. The PCR tests were false. And now you got to make sure there's false information that you can't take readily available, previously FDA-approved medicine like budesonide and a Z-Pak, an asthma medication to treat patients. So even though Dr. Bartlett is treating people, and he doesn't stand to financially benefit by treating people, he's been told you can't say that. You need to be censored. You need to be silenced. And all roads lead to the gates of hell and to the Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates vaccines, which are crazy experimental, and they're made by a company named Moderna, which stands for modified RNA. And now we're going to recommend that everybody takes a vaccine that modifies your RNA and that has a cryptocurrency mixed in with it? What are we talking about? It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, that all sounds pretty crazy.
Yes, it is crazy. And, again, Dr. Fauci, I mean, think about this. Dr. Fauci, if all your listeners would just do it. I know we're all busy, and I know someone's driving, so maybe pull over, but do a search for this on Google or DuckDuckGo.com. Type in Dr. Fauci backed the controversial Wuhan lab with U.S. dollars for risky coronavirus research. Newsweek, we're not talking about rightwing.com. I'm not talking about tinfoilhat.com. Newsweek reported in 2019, in a shocking twist of events, President Trump, he banned gain-of-function research, which involves taking a naturally occurring virus from an animal and mixing it with fetal tissue. President Trump bans fetal research in 2019, and in a shocking turn of events, Dr. Fauci then moves the U.S. funding and moves the research from the United States where it's banned and moves it to Wuhan, China. So the very man who funded the creation of the virus is the man telling us how to deal with the virus. I don't think the average person knows that.
I don't think so either. A lot of average people know it now. Thank you very much. In the meantime, what do we do? Who do we believe? What should be our activity tomorrow with health officials that are in charge saying 25% in the restaurant, wear a mask, socially distance, and you're saying that information has been created by people who have financial interest in your illness.
Correct. I will give all your listeners two calls to action. One is I have spent thousands of hours, and I appreciate you sharing that you haven't read Fear Unmasked yet. And by the way, there's so much information coming in, I would not have expected you to read all. There's so many books and things coming out. But my book, Fear Unmasked, has been read and has got into the hands of the governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. She sent me a picture of her with the book. And that woman is a very smart woman. So I would encourage all your listeners not to go necessarily buy my book, but you can listen to the audiobook version for free if you go to timetofreeamerica.com. Timetofreeamerica.com. It's free there. And what I've built for your listeners is a kind of like a Wikipedia of all things COVID-19. So you have all the facts right there, all in one place. So if you want to know the truth about Hunter Biden and his incredible laptop of abominations, you can see it all right there. If you want to know about Dr. Fauci and his ties to funding the Wuhan lab, you can see it right there. If you want to download the proven protocols that have resulted in 0 deaths when treated properly, 0 deaths. That's a low number, 0 deaths. You can find that at timetofreeamerica.com. And I would go there. I would do your research. And then my second call to action is I would encourage all your listeners to boldly share the truth. Now, Matthew 5:10, I know it's a controversial idea to quote something from the Bible when you have Antifa protesting in a time like this. But if you look at Matthew 5:10 from the Bible, it reads, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." What I'm saying is when you share the truth, you're going to irritate somebody, and that's okay. But we got to share the truth. It's like, sharing the truth is like being a referee. Nobody comes up after the game and says, "Oh, referee, yes, you made the right calls. I love you." Yeah, no, people don't do that. But when you share the truth, you're going to spark other conversations. And all we need to do is to wake up the people in America that love freedom, because the average soccer mom isn't a fan of defunding the police and mandating vaccines and hiding from the virus and wearing a mask in your house till the end of the world. Nobody, the average person is not in favor of that. They just need to be exposed to the truth. And we're all now members of the mainstream media now, because the mainstream media isn't going to tell you the truth. So the average person on Main Street, we have to become the Main Street media. We got to share the truth.
I appreciate Clay Clark. Thank you very much for talking with us this morning. I am, as you might guess, way over time, but you're a fascinating guest, and I hope we can do it again sometime. Fear Unmasked, or the website, timetofreeamerica.com. Clay Clark, thank you very much for talking with us this morning. Gotta go.
Folks, Franklin Graham has been talking about it. Sean Foyt, the praise and worship leader, who you've probably seen on Fox News with the long hair. He's been performing everywhere. Franklin Graham, the son of Billy Graham, has been talking about it. Right now in America, we need to pray and fast. And we need to pray and fast, and we need to claim victory in Jesus' name. We need to go vote, right? We need to vote. But in the natural, we need to vote. But in the supernatural, we need to be praying and fasting. It is so important we do that. And I want you, I'm going to cue up a little audio. This is Pastor Paul Doherty. The song is called When I Speak Your Name. And it's talking about the power that there is in the name of Jesus. And I think it's been probably a while. It's probably been too long for many of us. We probably haven't looked at the Bible as much as we should have. We want to. We're busy. But we're watching The Voice. We're watching The Masked Voice. And, it's kind of we're watching Survivor reruns. We're watching Netflix. Some of us are watching Breaking Bad, hoping Jesus isn't watching. But maybe we could find some time to read Ephesians. Well, so let's just say you're busy. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. So I'm going to go ahead and read some of the Ephesians to you. But I want you to direct your attention towards Ephesians chapter 1, verse 16, which I liked so much I actually wrote on the whiteboard. I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Cease not to give thanks for you, making mention of you in my prayers." Now, real quick, before I read Ephesians to you, let's talk about it. Who wrote Ephesians? Pop quiz. Paul. Paul wrote Ephesians. Now, was Paul persecuted for his righteousness? Matthew 5:10 says, "Blessed are those who are persecuted for their righteousness, for they shall inherit the kingdom of heaven." Was Paul persecuted? Oh, yes, he was. He was beaten 39 times on 5 separate occasions. That's a lot of beatings. Yeah, he was beaten 39 times on 5 separate occasions, Paul was. And he wrote the book of Ephesians from prison. Oh, yes, he was shipwrecked 3 times. He was persecuted, and he was sent to prison. And he wrote 13 books in the New Testament. And he wrote this while in prison. Let me read it to you again. It says, "Cease not to give thanks for you, making mention of you in my prayers." That's Jesus. "Cease not to give thanks for you, Jesus, making mention of you, Jesus, in my prayers. That the God of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of glory, may give unto you the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him." We must never stop, folks, thanking Jesus. Verse 18, "The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that ye may know what is the hope of his calling, and what the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints, and what is the exceeding greatness of his power to usward who believe, according to the working of his mighty power, which he wrought in Christ when he raised him from the dead and set him at his own right hand, and in the heavenly places, far above all principality and power, and might and dominion, and every name that is named, not only in this world, but also in that which is to come. And hath put all things under his feet, and gave him to the head over all things to the church, which is his body, the fullness of him that filleth all in all." Translation, Jesus died for our sins. He's seated at the right hand of the Father, and he's given you authority over satanic attacks from groups like Antifa. By the way, Antifa stands for the Ant Company. If you Google search it, the Ant Company is one of the largest Chinese communist companies, and they're funding Antifa, the Ant Company. It's called the Ant Company. Look it up. And the founder of Black Lives Matters, Patrisse Cullors, admits to praying to dead spirits and she has a false god religion where it's very similar to Satanism, where she prays to a god called Ifa, I-F-A. So keep that in mind. We are right now in a spiritual battle. Oh, yes, we are. We are in a battle. That's what we're in. We are in a spiritual battle, and we must pray and fast and ask for the Lord Jesus Christ to help us win the election. And we have to go vote. And I believe that you're smart enough to do both simultaneously. I think you can. Let me hit play, and let's listen to this, okay? Let's listen and let's pray. Let's do that together. Let's just take some time, maybe 4 or 5 minutes, to pray, to give thanks, and to thank Jesus in advance for giving us President Donald J. Trump to fight. He's the only thing standing between us and a socialist takeover, okay? Here we go. This is Paul Doherty.
When I speak your name, darkness has to flee. When I speak your name, I have authority. When I speak your name, mountains have to move. When I speak your name, chains are breaking loose. Oh,
do you believe it? I mean, what if the Bible's real? What if it's real? We should probably start praying, shouldn't we?
when I speak your name, heart
not to give thanks for you, making mention of you in my prayers. Cease not. Don't stop. We cannot stop giving thanks. We can't do it. It says right there. Ephesians. Open it up.
Darkness has to flee. When I speak your name, I have victory. When I speak your name, mountains have to move. When I speak your name, chains are breaking loose. When I speak your name,
The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that ye may know what is the hope of his calling, and what the riches of the glory of his inheritance in the saints, and what is the exceeding greatness of his power to usward who believe, according to the working of his mighty power, which he wrought in Christ, when he raised him from the dead, and set him at his own right hand in the heavenly places, far above all principality and power and might and dominion, and every name that is named, not only in this world, but also in that which is to come, and that put all things under his feet, and gave him to be the head over all things to the church, which is his body, the fullness of him, and that filleth all in all. There's no other name. You need to proclaim his name. Jesus is King, and we are going to have a victory. We already have a victory. We've got to get out there and vote, and we've got to start praying and fasting right now. Right now. You probably needed to start last week, but right now. When? Right now. Am I talking about this on our show for more downloads? No. I'm saying this because the truth is being revealed. You're being kept from attending your church. You can still go to liquor stores, pot dispensaries. You can still have an abortion. But they're trying to keep you from going to church because they know there is power in his name. They know it. Sing it, folks.
every tongue confess you, all creation sings out, worthy are you, Jesus. Every knee
We all sing along to mindless pop songs. What's wrong with singing along with a little praise and worship? Come on now.
creation sings out, worthy are you, Jesus. Every knee will
Here we go.
every tongue confess, all creation sings out, worthy are you, Jesus. Every knee will bow down, every tongue confess, all creation sings out, worthy are you, Jesus.
There's no other name by which I am saved. There's no higher name but Jesus, Jesus. There's no other name. You're the truth and you're the way. There's no higher name but Jesus.
Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. You know it's true. You don't see Christians going out there burning and looting and rioting, do you? Do you see Christians looting, rioting? No, you don't. Who's rioting? Who's looting? Who's looting? It's a world that's lost hope and put their hope in the wrong things. Instead of putting hope in Jesus, they're putting hope in Dr. Fauci, who's a corrupt, lifelong bureaucrat. Instead of putting hope in Jesus, they're putting hope in Bill Gates, who's best friends with Jeffrey Epstein during his lifetime. We need to call upon the name of Jesus, not the name of Fauci. We need to call upon the name of Jesus, not the name of Dr. Birx. We need to call upon the name of Jesus and not the name of anybody else. Even President Donald J. Trump recently said, the most famous name in the world is not President Donald J. Trump, it is Jesus. We base our calendar upon it. You've got to share the truth, folks. You've got to do it. You got to get out there and vote. You got to make it happen. Folks, remember this. Ephesians 6:12 reads, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." We can't be putting our hope in Dr. Fauci. We can't be putting our hope in President Donald J. Trump. We must put our hope in Jesus Christ. There is power in that name. This isn't about downloads. This isn't about selling business coaching. This isn't about conference tickets. This is about putting the power, putting our hope, putting our faith where it needs to be put. It needs to be placed in the name of Jesus Christ, folks. Feel free to share this show with every single person that you know.
There's no other name by which I am saved. No higher name. Jesus.
Folks, I encourage you to find that song on YouTube, When I Speak Your Name. That's the Victory Praise and Worship team led by Paul Doherty. But more importantly, I encourage you to get out there and vote, but pray and fast. We got to do it. We probably should have been doing it last month. We should have been doing it last week, last year, but we have to do it, folks. This is the most important election you're ever going to witness during your lifetime. If you love America, if you love freedom, if you love your kids, if you have the ability to come and go at a time of your choosing, if you like the ability to make decisions, if you like the ability to be able to take your kids to church or not, this is your time. You cannot remain silent. You can't be the silent majority. We've got to be the outspoken majority. We've got to be. What should we be saying right now? If we're supposed to be outspoken, what should we say? What we need to say is that there is power in the name of Jesus Christ. That's what we need to be saying. We've got to share the truth with love, and that's hard to do. Oh, that's hard for me to do. That's been the biggest struggle I've ever had. Sharing the truth and love. How do you do that? I'm trying. We've got to do it, though. We've got to speak. Just pray for our enemies and get out there and vote. We've got to do it, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download. And I encourage you, just get on your knees and pray. You say, well, get on my actual knees? Yes, get on your actual knees and pray. It's time for prayer. It's time for fasting. There's power in the name of Jesus. And dear Lord, I thank you in advance for giving President Donald J. Trump the victory and allowing America to expose the truth about the corruption that's going on. It's time that we return to serving you. In your name we pray. Amen.